People have been asking for Pokemon Let's Go Johto, but you know what would be even better than that? A direct sequel to Heart Gold and Soul Silver, like Black and White 2. Well, that's exactly what Pokemon Scorched Silver is, an Emerald ROM hack that's set 20 years after the original Gen 2 games. There's new gym leaders, familiar faces, and a brand new storyline. So, let's dive in. To make this playthrough even more interesting, I can only use Pokemon that begin with the letter P. Straight off the bat, this game starts very differently. Not only do we live in Cherry Grove City, but we also have a brother, who is essentially Roderick from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. His name is Shane, and he might just be the worst human being to ever grace a Pokemon game. Our mum shouted him to take us to Professor Elm's lab, who has obviously been unable to secure that beautiful retirement yet, so that we can get our first Pokemon. The choices are what you would expect: Cyndaquil, Totodile, and Chikorita. None of them or their evolutions start with the letter P, however, so I chose Totodile and proceeded to throw it into the nearest trash can, instead catching a Pidgey who I named Peter to be my actual starter. Joining Peter and I is a lowly Patrat, who, whilst I'm not allowed to evolve as Watchog doesn't start with P, should be a decent body to sacrifice for the early game. As we make our way back to Cherry Grove City, Shane stops us at the entrance to brag about his pawn collection, and then literally burns us and our Pokemon alive with his Houndoom. Our mum shouted at him, I assume partly for beating us senseless in the middle of the street, and partly for accidentally downloading malware onto the family computer, before we're thrusted out into the real world to start our Pokemon adventure. The first thing I do is catch a Pidove and a Purloin, before starting to make my way towards Violet City. A quick look around shows that the trainer school has been turned into a university, which raises the question of where do all the little kids go now before they turn 10? I decided to visit Sprout Tower, partly to investigate if that was where the little kids were going instead, and if there was anything I needed to put a stop to. There was nothing too suspicious going on inside, and at this point Peter was high enough level to where he could deal with all of their Bellsprouts relatively easily. I was rewarded with an experience share, and then decided to investigate the nearby ruins of Alph. Inside, I met Oliver, who I assume is the Fregley of this world. He's Professor Elm's son, and an absolutely massive nerd. Being the jock that I am, I left him to rot in the ruins whilst I went and beat up an aging falconer whose entire attitude screamed that he didn't know why he was still doing this shit. If you've been doing this for 20 years and your Pidgeotto is still level 14, sorry mate, something's gone wrong. First badge secured, and it was time to head towards Azalea Town. On the way, I caught myself a Timpole, with the idea being to evolve it into a Palpitoad and then keep it like that. When I finally got to Azalea Town, I was faced with my first true villain, a major corporation. In place of Kurt's house, it was the Pokeball Factory, an obviously disgusting attempt to capitalize on his brand and make the big cats of the world even richer. Protest sign in hand, I stomped right into the factory, ready to tell a minimum wage employee what's what, when I realized that the entire place had been overrun by an evil team. The team in question is called Team Phoenix, and they are after the Master Ball. Obviously having seen Giovanni's plan and deciding that because nothing ever went wrong for him, surely it wouldn't for them either. As you'd expect, Peter blew them all away, and this ungrateful ass of a CEO tells me that they're fully stocked up on Master Balls and then doesn't give me one. What a disgrace of a business! This is not what Kurt, who I presume is long dead, stood for. The Pokeball Factory isn't the only new evil part of Azalea Town, as Bugsy, the original gym leader, has been the victim of what I can only assume is nepotism, as a little girl named Alicia has been made the new gym leader. Her gym is fairy type, and she forces me to play a quick game of hide and seek before promptly beating my ass. I spend a while grinding, catching a Paris, who I smartly named Paris, before returning to Alicia's gym and finally managing to get my second badge. I leave Azalea Town, proud of my fight against the upper classes, and enter Ilex Forest, where Team Phoenix are hiding out, trying to find Celebi. Wanting to show them up, I accidentally summon Celebi and wind up travelling back in time. There, I bump into this fella you might have heard of, and tear him a new one with my newly evolved Palpitoad, before returning to my original time and proceeding to make Team Phoenix members cry as I brag about my recent achievement. At Goldenrod City, I decide to take a break from my journey and attend a filming of The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, who is conveniently interviewing the next gym leader, Whitney. During the break, enamored by the filmmaking, I decide to go backstage to try and talk to Jimmy himself, where I run into my beloved brother, who's trying to meet Whitney. He demands to battle me there and then, which doesn't go exactly according to his plan when it turns out that instead of leveling up his Pokemon, he's instead been spending his time hunting body pillows. Peter shows him what's up, before we're suddenly both kidnapped by an intruding Hypno. It turns out the Hypno belongs to a Team Phoenix admin, who has locked us both in some cells in their underground lair. News of my Celebi encounter has obviously made it around their club, and they demand to know which of us it was who met the tiny legendary. Shane, in his first presumably heroic act, takes the blame, though I am slightly convinced that he is actually stupid enough to think that he was the one who met Celebi, and he's taken even further into their lair. Stuck in a jail cell with only one grunt guarding, I offer him some of my crypto in exchange for the cell key, and to my surprise he takes the offer. Shane has apparently been taken to another base of theirs, and so I leave this one, which is literally located in a sewer, and decide that as much as I love my brother, getting gym badges is slightly more important. Whitney's gym sees me take part in a game show, answering the world's worst questions in order to prove my worth. I do so, and then promptly humiliate her on national television with a parasect, which might be the worst fate a human being can suffer. The third badge is mine, and I should probably now turn my attention towards saving Shane, who is being kept in Team Phoenix's Ettrick City base. Their base is located underneath a dance hall, which feels smart until you realize one of the girls is standing outside the hall telling everyone who walks past exactly how to get in and stop them. Inside, I make my way towards the admin Damon and kick his ass with a parasect. After I push him to the side, I go into their dungeon and find Shane, who's locked away and guarded by a man named Thorn, who used to work for Team Rocket as one of their top scientists. He can't beat a Palpitoad though. Having forced Team Phoenix out of their shiny base, I free Shane, and after an awkward talk about our emotions, he runs off and I decide to take on the fourth gym. Morty has been replaced with Wataru, a new water-type gym leader. As good as he is, there's just no beating Peter. I make my way to Olivine City, where the new gym leader Charlie gives us one of the more interesting puzzles I've seen. He's part of a band and is holding a concert, and he needs us to go out and find his band members who are currently scattered around town, presumably getting as drunk as humanly possible. Like the good little personal assistant we are, we find all of them and take them back to the gym, where Charlie agrees to battle us. I would have rather have had a paycheck for that manual labor, but I guess a gym badge will do. Over to Cianwood City, where Shane is waiting to ambush us. He's actually been doing some training for once, but it's not enough to beat us. He should probably go back to downloading dodgy videos off Pirate Bay. Chuck is no more, and has been replaced by, I think, Rock Lee. Like, literally just Rock Lee from Naruto. We introduce Rock Lee to Peter, and suddenly we have 6 badges. As we exit the gym, we smell the familiar scent of a sweaty nerd, and find Oliver, who is waiting to both tell us about his Yu-Gi-Oh collection and warn us that Team Phoenix are currently invading a nearby forest, trying again to find and capture Celebi. He tells us to go and get to Celebi first, but it turns out that was Team Phoenix's plan all along, and Oliver, the stupid piece of shit, has been led on by Thorn. They capture the time-traveling legendary before Damon demands a rematch, desperate for another beating. I kindly give him what he asked for before turning my attention to stopping Team Phoenix. In order to do that though, I'd need to find their new base. My search leads me to Mahogany Town, where the local gym leader Winter, creative name, is currently out training in the middle of Ice Path. Now, do I continue my incredibly important search for a captured legendary Pokemon, or do I go out and find this gym leader so I can get another badge from my shiny case? Come on, you already know what I did. And at this point, why not extend my little break some more and actually take on Winter? Luckily, I've recently caught myself a Pyroar named Pippa, who helps make short work of the, yes, you guessed it, Ice-type gym leader. After beating her, she gives me the resort pass, which it turns out I actually need to find Team Phoenix's base, which I totally knew beforehand. This was all part of the plan. I meet up with Shane before heading into the Rage Resort. Another example of a completely innocent landmark of Johto being taken over by the need for rich people to make more money. And while Shane is making gooey eyes at Whitney, I spot a Team Phoenix grunt heading into a suspicious little house. I wonder where he could have gone. It was a secret base. He went into the secret base. In the secret base, I find Thorn, who I quickly lay waste to before walking some more to find the boss of Team Phoenix, Ariana from Team Rocket. It turns out that she plans to use Celebi to go back in time, and I think I'm following this correctly. Murder Red so he never gets the chance to beat Giovanni and cause Team Rocket to disband. Okay, maybe not murder him, but that is still a crazy plan. But you know what? Fair play to her. Her plan starts to go well as she time travels back to Pallet Town, but she unfortunately for her ends up dragging Shane and I back with her. Teaming up with Shane in a very cute brotherly moment, we beat Ariana and Damon before traveling back to the present. There, we're met with the champion of Johto, who jumps to our rescue. None other than Silver, who is also our dad. But then he reveals that Ariana is actually his mother, which means she is our grandmother. And this is a lot of family-related twists for me to keep up with. Whilst I have an existential crisis about my ancestry, Silver frees Celebi, but it turns out our grandma has an ace up her sleeve. She's rigged Burnt Tower with explosives and sets them off, angering Ho-Oh and causing him to attack the Johto region. Luckily for us, he's very bad at mass destruction, and so we have plenty of time to go and tell Lugia to deal with them. The two have a stern confrontation before sharing a loving embrace, and we're free to ditch our dad and go and get our 8th badge, from none other than Blackthorn, where Claire awaits us. Her team is bloody stacked with pseudo-legendaries, but our little P army somehow manages to defeat her. And now, it's time for the Pokemon League. On our way there, we're rudely interrupted by Shane, who has still not learned to express his brotherly affection in any way that isn't mindless violence. He attempts to battle us, but at the end of the day, our Fire Lion is a lot cooler than his Fire Hellhound. It's just the truth. And well, this is it. The Pokemon League. Before we enter, Shane appears again. He's honestly like a little parasite, and warns us that he just attempted the league, and not even he could beat our father. I'll be honest, mate, you're a bit shit. I would have been worried for our father if you could beat him. But alright, let's do this. The first Elite Four member is Janine, who is now sporting what I swear is a Naruto mask, which begs the question of if Naruto is actually set in Johto, or if at some point in the last 20 years a multiversal rift has opened up. She's got poison types, but we have a Palpitoad. Then there's Kazuma, the fire type specialist. Again, Palpitoad. Next is Agatha, who's somehow still alive. Well, actually, I'm not completely sure she is. And finally, Jasmine. She still hasn't got the hang of being fire types. And so, finally, we go to take on the champion of Johto, our father, Silver. His team is no joke. He's got an Alakazam, an Entei, Feraligatr, and even a Mega Salamence. But we have the power of the letter P. And it's Pauline, our Persian, who deals the final blow and wins us the battle. We are the champions of the Johto region.